Well, good evening, this is Houndlog Steve wishing you a very pleasant evening, and I would like to talk to you this evening about a very special thing that happened just recently in 2020 between the months of January and March. And that special thing, it's absolutely incredible, it's staggering, it's quite unbelievable in fact, but every human being on this planet lost the ability to have a functioning immune system. For some bizarre reason, everyone's immune system just stopped working just like that after 250,000 plus years of fighting off every possible disease known to humankind. In the space of 2 months, just like that, it just stopped working. And apparently now what we need to do is to get a shot in the arm to save us from that. And how is that shot in the arm going to save us from that? Well, that shot in the arm is going to take an itty little bitty bit of what your immune system used to protect you from, and they're going to give that to you. And then that itty bitty bit that you get is going to trigger your immune system to protect you from this particular form of pathogen. Isn't that amazing? Just like that, your immune system stops working and boing, you get a shot in the arm and it makes that particular part of your immune system work again. This is so unbelievable, folks. It is incredible. Now, for myself, I think because I'm a gardener, I'm an organic gardener and I work with soils all the time, and I understand that soil is not just dirt, it is full of bacteria. Bacteria, molds, yeasts, viruses, you name it. It's every time you pick up a handful of soil, you're looking at maybe 1 million or 2 million varieties of bacteria in that soil, and they all work harmoniously together. And so it is a completely natural process. Viruses are actually a very necessary part of this world. Our body contains literally, hundreds of thousands of viruses all the time. Continually, all the time. They never go away. We're exhaling them, we're shedding them with all of our, going to the washroom, that kind of stuff. We get rid of these viruses. And so this is nothing new. This is the way we evolved. And hiding from these viruses is probably the worst thing that you can possibly do. Maybe I should call them organisms. Now, it is kind of interesting with these organisms, viral organisms, is that, take bubonic plague, for example. Now, bubonic plague basically only breaks out when you have a certain density of population per square kilometre. I forget what that is, but you get to a point where it is so dense that bubonic plague can jump from person to person, from host to host, very, very quickly. But it is such a vicious disease that it kills the host too quickly. And so what happens with these plagues is they break out, they run like a wildfire, but when they built enough firewalls between hosts and they can no longer jump, they just stop, they die out. We don't talk of bubonic plague anymore. It's not an issue. Although they were talking about plague down in San Francisco just recently, and there was a scare about 30 years of pneumonic plague in India. But again, this is a density issue. So viruses are not really the problem. Viruses are usually a response to a set of circumstances. Just like a mold, for example. Mold is not the problem. Mold is a symptom of the dampness that's created by something, whether it's too many layers, water trapped in between, continual wetness, wet and dry. Well, whatever it is, it's not the mold. The mold has become a problem because the condition has got to the point where the mold just overgrows everything. And this is the same with all things in nature. I had a problem with Fusarium, which is in all soil all the time. It's a fungus, and it is activated by hot, wet weather, tropical kind of weather. And but it will lay dormant in the soil for years. and not affect anything. It's not until those particular conditions come out, and even in a particular field, a field of wheat for example, you can see in one corner is Fusarium where the conditions are absolutely perfect for that thing to flourish. So to completely forget that we have a fully functioning immune system is an absolute folly in this situation. Anyway, I do have something to back that up. Here is a piece from RT. It's a really good piece, and we'll flip over to that and we'll come back and I'll do a quick wrap up. Okie dokie, here we go. And this from RT. Don't fear the mutant. CV may be adapting to humans, warn MSM. Haven't they been paying attention? And of course the short answer to that question very quickly is, yeah they have, but you know, the mainstream media right now are scared to death. Okay, they are collapsing as we speak. And they will do absolutely anything to get your attention, and that's why they become actually very dangerous, because they're running after things like crazy. They will turn a dog turd into a 3-course meal. Okay, they'll turn a dog turd into a 3-course meal if you don't watch out. Okay, this is by Peter Andrews, Irish science journalist and writer based in London. He has a background in the life sciences and graduated from the University of Glasgow with a degree in genetics. The MSM is pushing a narrative that the CV presents an existential threat to humans, jumping on findings that the CV is mutating as evidence for this. But in reality, mutations are anything but alarming. Over the weekend, The Guardian published a piece titled "Scientists Concerned That CV is Adapting to Humans." One may be forgiven for doing a double take at this headline. Hasn't the virus already adapted to humans? Otherwise, what would all the fuss be about? In any case, the piece refers to recent analysis of thousands of CV genomes worldwide, revealing that some have mutations not present in the original strain. Newsflash: viruses mutate. All DNA mutates, including your own. But this is no bad thing. Admittedly, the word has negative connotations. We imagine mutants as horrible, deformed creatures and, X-Men aside, usually bad guys. But in fact, mutation is as natural a process to DNA as repair or reproduction. Evolution relies on it. Famously, mutations to the lactose gene allowed the people of European descent to consume dairy products. Some factions of the media seem committed to capitalizing on the negative associations people have with mutants and mutation to scare the unsuspecting public. But as long as there are still some voices of reason commentating on CV, such alarmist tactics will be readily challenged. And yes, we should challenge them. This is extremist talk and is absolutely nonsense. It's a natural process. Mutants are milder. One such voice of reason is Dr. John Lee, a retired eminent epidemiologist and outspoken critic of the UK's government handling of the outbreak. He looks at the CV through the lens of evolution and has a fascinating take on how mutations may actually be a good thing. A virus that is too deadly will die out with its host before it can spread, but to spread widely, which after all is its only purpose, a smart virus becomes even milder. And as mutations help it to do this, Lee expects the new strains of CV to be less harmful. From the outside, this looks like the virus burning itself out. In fact, it is different particles of the virus spreading farther, rather than the stronger form of the virus itself running out of steam. Either way, the results are the same. Lee warns, however, that this tendency for the CV to get milder with time may be hindered by the lockdown. Oh, isn't that fascinating? Fancy that, hindered by the lockdown. Bad news for Big Pharma. Perhaps the only thing that mutations are bad for is the vaccine development effort. Vaccines rely on creating antigens that closely match the precise molecular character of the pathogen in question. If that pathogen is changing via mutations, it scuppers the best laid plans of vaccine developers, and the variation already detectable in CV genomes does not bode well for large pharmaceutical companies. This is hardly surprising, as SARS-CoV-2 is a single-stranded RNA virus, the kind of virus particularly prone to mutations. In fact, all CVs are of this type. Their inherent changeability is probably why no CV has ever had a vaccine. Remember that. No CV has ever had a vaccine, and they've been working on the SARS vaccine for 17 15 years without success. For now, though, mutations should be nowhere near the top of the priority list in terms of tackling CV. As Professor Nick Lohman of the University of Birmingham said in a different article in The Guardian, "I'm sure it will not matter which mutations the virus has. We will look to see if any of the mutations change behaviour, and we don't have any evidence for that." Unwelcome guest. In his latest article for The Spectator, Lee says that the novel CV is simply coming into equilibrium with its new human hosts. Perhaps mutations are just a part of this process, a newborn life form getting to grips with its new home. And it probably has time to settle in because a vaccine, if one is ever made, is at least a year away, probably more. For the foreseeable future then, SARS-CoV-2 will be floating around in the ether, infecting and reinfecting human bodies. We did not get a say about our new tenant, but it has turned up on our doorstep with its own key. Thankfully, like all of the best tenants, it will go completely unnoticed most of the time. So, as you can see, viruses are everywhere. These pathogens are just, the whole planet is basically covered with them. There's no escape from them. In fact, they are so present everywhere we go. The only thing that you can possibly do is strengthen your immune system. And the way we can do that today in our modern world is you take vitamin C, and this is not medical advice. You've got to qualify that there. This is not medical advice. But take vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc. And if you take just those three things, I do take other things, but just those three things will protect you from just about every pathogen that is out there. I literally have not been sick other than a head cold in the last 28 years at all. I don't get depressed in the wintertime. I don't get sick in the wintertime. And I believe it is all from taking vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc every day. Absolutely every day. And these are things we can do to bolster our immune system to protect us. You know, we're actually way too clean, and we have this strange mentality right now that running to a safe space, staying home, is actually going to protect you. When, you know, viruses and this kind of stuff, pathogens, have travelled the world just on the wind. You know, they get picked up in particles of dust, they get carried from country to country, they come down, you know, they get wet, so when it rains, somebody picks up something on their hand, puts it in the mouth, and there you go. That pathogen is now established in that particular part of the world. But we can't stop this stuff. It's impossible. And for anybody to try and tell you, and for you to try and believe, is absolute foolishness. I'm sorry to say that, but it is. And once you start working with soils, once you start working with bacteria, you start to realize that this is how it all has to work, and it will work. It doesn't matter what you do. You can wipe your house down with bleach every single minute of the day, and you'll still not get rid of all the pathogens in your house, in the air, in the water, on every surface, every part of your world, no matter where you go. They're there. So you might as well get used to it there. And in fact, many more of them are our friends than our enemy. Okay, that's why we're still here. Because you can see, if the whole world was suddenly, if bubonic plague became the flu, well, we just wouldn't be here, would we? All the hosts would be dead. So, you know, we've obviously made it, our immune systems have protected us. And, you know, the biggest problem, TB. Look at TB. What happens with TB? What did they do? They sent them to sanatoriums. They sent them to places where they could get sunshine, good food, rest, and no stress. There you go. I mean, that's TB. We're just talking a flu here. So take your vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc, and you know, you're probably going to weather the storm with no problems whatsoever. Trust your immune system. Your immune system is the most unbelievable force on this planet if you allow it to do what it's designed to do. You know, eat the foods that bolster your immune system and don't dampen your immune system. So many people are eating processed foods that's not really food. And whatever it is, whether you are a vegetarian, a vegan, a meat eater, like myself, an omnivore, make sure that your food is real. It comes from real cows, real pigs, real chickens, real gardens, real food. Whatever it is, whatever you choose, to make sure that it's real. If you're going to put, any kind of thing on any spread on your toast, make sure it's butter. Don't put a margarine on there. Make sure it's butter. A good animal fat. Okay, and I think that if we just use these common sense things, sure, there's always people that are not going to make it. That's just the way life is, I'm afraid. It's sad to say, but that's the way it is. But far more of us would survive than would do if you are in a good, healthy condition. If you walk, if you exercise, if you eat well, if you take those vitamins, you will find that not much will befall you. Okie dokie, well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like, comment and subscribe below. In the meantime, this is Hound Dog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant evening, and we'll talk very, very shortly. See you now. Bye.